Welcome back to the UVU Coaches Show on ESPN 960. We are pleased now to be joined by head coach Mark Madsen. Coach, you celebrated a birthday a couple days ago. How was it?
It was great. It was great. My wife and I had a great dinner. We love Thai food, so we had a great Thai dinner.
Oh.
It's just 46 years young and still counting. So that's a blessing, and I'm grateful to be here at Utah Valley University.
Coach, I've been to a couple practices, and I've seen you out there. You look fit. I heard do you have a daily regimen with your wife as far as exercise goes?
We try to get out on walks from time to time, and during the season it gets hectic, it gets tough, but we definitely try to stay active and fit to the best that we can.
Coach, you went to the Windy City last week, had a big win, successful over Chicago State. What did you see that you and your coaching staff liked from your squad?
Well, from an offensive standpoint, we played at a very, very high level. Moving the ball, a lot of guys touching it. Fardaws did an excellent job moving the ball. Goes into the post to him. Teams have tried every different way of double teaming him, and Fardaws basically he's been picking defenses apart with his passing. So I was really happy there. Connor Harding shot the ball tremendously well. Latre, Justin Harmon, Asa. Our wings were very good. It was very gratifying to see Justin Harmon get back to action. He probably had about 80 family and friends there.
Awesome.
With T-shirts, with Justin Harmon T-shirts
awesome.
on. It was one of the coolest things I think I've ever seen. And I've been doing this a long time. Just to feel the love and support in the greater Chicago area that Justin commands for who he is as a person, as a young man, as a student.
Love it. Coach, we talked a lot about Fardaws and the growth that he's been able to have. Do you see any similarities with people that you played with or played against in his game?
Yes. Well, in the mentality of preparation work and accountability, he reminds me a lot of Colby.
Okay.
And people are always a little surprised when I say that, but Fardaws is someone who just, for example, we had practice today on a Saturday early in the morning. The coaches came in. Fardaws was on the court with four team managers, working on his rebounding game, working on his three-point game, working on his post game. The guy just has a work ethic, and that reminds me of Colby in terms of playing on the court. He's very similar to someone like Jokic, I think, in some ways. Obviously, Jokic being the MVP of the NBA. So I think right now it would be a poor man's Jokic.
Okay.
In terms of Fardaws being able to shoot the three, being able to pass, being able to post up.
The growth that he's been able to have has been phenomenal to watch, really, with everybody on the team. Later on in the show today, Coach, we're going to talk with sports psychologist Kevin Doc Woods, and we're going to talk with him and his role. What can you say about him and what he's been able to help you with your team?
Dr. Woods is an imperative part of this program. Dr. Woods will counsel with players one-on-one, whether it be academics, whether it be on-court performance, whether it be stabilization of mental health. Dr. Woods is a true professional. He's a family man. He's someone that just cares about these young men. Dr. Woods is someone who knows that academics come first. Off the court stability comes first. And if those things are in place, players can really excel on the court. We all have things hit us at different times, unexpected things. We all need that person to talk to. And Dr. Woods, he's traveled with us multiple times. Anytime Dr. Woods reaches out and tells me he's going to travel, I get excited. I get excited because he just adds so much to this program, to this university, and really as a whole to this entire Utah County community. We're lucky to have him here.
And speaking, I know you've talked a lot about the mental aspect of the game and talking about when things are not going your way, how you're able to keep that in focus. I was just looking through the archives. There was a big comeback in the NBA the other week, and I was thinking about back in 2002. You guys are playing Dallas Mavericks. You guys erased a 27-point deficit. Mm-hmm. What is it about that mental aspect that's really able to separate the cream from the crop?
Well, number one, you have to have the talent to do it. Number one, you have to have the firepower. You have to have the flamethrowers to be able to put points on the board or to be able to overcome adversity. But I think that the key point is the mentality. When things don't go your way, are you going to roll over and die? Are you going to die on the vine? or are you going to continue to fight? Are you going to continue to punch? Are you going to continue to get up after you've been knocked down and work? Because a lot of times if you just work, the tide will change. Tex Winter, one of my mentors, an assistant coach for the Lakers, was with the Chicago Bulls with Michael. He used to always say, everything can turn on a trifle. I mean, and that's a perfect example of that game with everything turning on a trifle.
Big week this week, Coach. Heading out to Texas, 2 tough teams, Abilene Christian, Sam Houston State. What are you expecting from those 2 teams?
Both games are going to be extremely physical. The style of play is going to be brutal. There's going to be a lot of elbows being thrown, people getting hit, and just the physicality in the paint and on the perimeter is going to be evident. We're going to have to come ready. You know, both those teams have some good wins against good teams, and so we're going to have to come ready to play.
Lastly, Coach, later on in the show, we're going to talk to 2-player guests, Tim Caesar and Colby Laveson. First off, let's talk about Tim Caesar. When I look at Tim, I see really almost an untapped potential, and I just see that the sky's the limit with him as far as his talent goes. What does Tim Caesar bring to this Utah Valley squad?
Well, Tim Caesar has a work ethic. You know, Tim Caesar's a guy who's always in the weight room. He's always in the gym. Tim's somebody who loves to get better. He can handle constructive criticism. I mean, he's not overly sensitive when he does so many things well. And there's a few things he can get better on. And he just embraces the challenge. He's a credit to this university. He's a credit to his family. And he's a credit to his teammates.
Yeah, on the other side, Colby Laveson, one of those guys that will do anything that you really need him to do. If you want him to go out there for 2 minutes, then he will. 14 minutes, whatever. He can give you whatever. What has Colby Laveson meant to this program?
Colby means so much to this program. You know, Colby's someone who's always ready. He's always ready. You know, there are going to be times and situations where he plays. There are going to be times where he hasn't played, but his professionalism is always there. He's always ready to go in, and he can change the game quickly with his skill set and with his ability to put points on the board, stretch the defense out, and create space for others.
All right, Coach, lastly, keys to success for Utah Valley this week.
Defense, rebounding, taking care of the basketball. If we do those 3 things at a high level, we'll have a good shot to win both games.
All right, Coach, thanks as always for taking the time.
Thank you so much, Brandon. Appreciate it.
All right, that was Coach Mark Madsen here on the UVU Coaches Show. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back with some player interviews with Tim Caesar after this on ESPN 960. Welcome back to the UVU Coaches Show here on ESPN 960. We heard from head coach Mark Madsen. Now it's our pleasure to hear from one of my favorite players to watch, Tim Caesar. Tim, I'm not saying that just because I'm interviewing you, but I genuinely love the way that you go about your game. We'll dive into that a little bit, but first off, we're doing this interview after practice. How was practice today?
No, practice was very good. We was very intense, and everybody was locked in, trying to win the championship. So.
Love it. Now I see Colby Laveson and a couple other dudes with their Apple Watches out there. Mm-hmm. Do you not really care about those like stats after practice, calories, things like that?
No, not really. I mean, every now and then I go check my weight, make sure I ain't losing a lot of weight. So I mean, not really.
Did you hit the gym after practice?
Yeah, I went to lift weights.
So is that a normal routine for you?
Yeah, like me, Dawes, and pretty much like all the bigs, we make it mandatory to go there and lift weights a little bit.
Got it. Okay. Now, when you're on the road, who's your roommate usually?
Colby Laveson. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So tell me something you learned about Colby on the road.
He gonna be a great businessman. He got a lot of connections. That's what I can say. He have a lot of connections. He's always on the phone talking to people. Yeah, he got a lot of connections.
That's funny. So you and Colby both from the South. He's from Georgia. You're from Arkansas. Yeah. I know he doesn't really have an accent, but you sound like you're a true Southern gentleman.
Yeah, Arkansas kind of country. I ain't gonna lie. Yeah.
Well, how so?
Like, even with like the food and everything, like. We over-season our food. It's like high blood pressure type of food. It's decent. I ain't gonna lie.
So what is your favorite food growing up? Like a true Southern Arkansas dish?
Smothered pork chops.
Smothered pork chops. What do you smother them with?
Gravy.
Ooh, man.
With a little mashed potatoes on the side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now is that like? in Arkansas, does every family have like their own like gravy recipe? Is that something that, or is it just like a?
I think so, because everybody kind of like got different cooking styles. Like with us, like I ain't gonna lie, we go crazy. We season our food. We have like some, a little homemade gravy, a little homemade barbecue. We even got homemade cabbages.
Oh man, so so everybody in your family cooks.
Everybody but me.
Everybody but you?
Yeah. I can't cook that well. I'm learning, though.
How come they skipped you?
I've always been playing ball. I've been on the road, so they couldn't teach me, yeah.
Okay. I know there's a handful of guys from the South on this team, coaches, everybody. I know maybe you already answered this question, but I ask it to everybody. So what is your favorite your favorite Southern dish? I know Coach Jackson loves his barbecue. He loves his grits as well. And then Colby Laveson, I think he said fried chicken along with Latrey Darthard. So what about you?
Me? Well, okay, I was raised a little bit in Memphis too. Like started the beginning of my life in Memphis.
Okay.
So I love barbecue. Ain't nothing like that Memphis barbecue. Now, barbecue ribs.
Barbecue, okay. Yeah. Barbecue ribs.
Barbecue ribs.
Love it. So who, if we were to have a cook-off right now with this UVU team, who do you think would take the cake?
Latrey.
Latrey, really?
Yeah.
Does he cook for you?
Nah, but I see him cooking all the time. Like, he used to be my roommate, and he used to cook every morning. He used to cook for lunch, cook for dinner. He cook all the time. And possibly Jordan Battle.
Really?
That's my roommate now. He cooked the best steak. I can't lie. He cooked the best steaks.
Okay. Well, it pays to have friends with those type of benefits, right?
Yeah.
All right, so now Tim, growing up in Arkansas, I know Arkansas, especially the state, they're football crazy with the pigs. Mm-hmm. But how did you come to love basketball?
See, I'm gonna tell you a little story. So
bring it on.
My seventh grade year, right? I was like probably 5'11" in seventh grade, and I didn't want to play basketball at first. Like I skipped the tryouts and everything just so I can go home and just play the game. That's what I was. I was a gamer. And, like, I came to school one day, and I looked at the list. My name was on the list that made the team. So I was kind of like a little forced, but, I mean, it worked out. But then I went from 5'11" to 6'5" at the end of my seventh grade year.
No way.
Yeah, so, like, then I just kept playing. Then, like, I started playing with the Arkansas Wings, and it kind of just took off from there.
Dang, how'd you adjust to your body?
It took a minute. I ain't going to lie. It took a minute, yeah.
So what is there a certain player or anybody either in the NBA or college that you saw growing up that you kind of want to attribute your game to?
Bobby Portis and Scottie Pippen, because they both from Arkansas.
Okay.
And, like, they was kind of like big dudes who can kind of do everything, kind of shoot, defend, block shots, and they was like an energetic type of dude. Love it.
Have you ever talked to Coach Mark Madsen about playing against Scottie Pippen?
Nah, I talked to him about playing against Shaq though.
Okay. Yeah. And what'd you ask him?
I was like, how tough was it guarding Shaq? I know he dunked on you like at least 7 times in a row. Like, I mean, he's unguardable. He's being realistic.
And what did he say?
He was like, it was pretty hard, but he was like, I held my own. So I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Now, Tim, I'm jealous at this fact, and so anybody that can dunk, I always ask them this question. But what age, or do you remember your first dunk?
6th grade.
6th grade. How old were you?
I don't know, probably like 12. It was probably, I don't know, 12, 11 maybe.
So your first dunk was in 6th grade. Do you remember who it was on, or was it like a fast break?
No, it was a fast break.
It was a fast break.
Yeah.
Okay.
I shocked myself. I went up trying to do a layup, and I was like, I felt myself kept going up. So I was like, might as well dunk, and I dunked, and the gym went crazy. Yeah.
Now, when I'm calling games, me and Josh Clunky, the guy that I call the games with, I like to refer to you as a block party. Yeah, and so
blocking shots.
So, did you ever have block parties in your neighborhood growing up?
Oh yeah, I got a lot really.
Cool. Yeah. So very very communal.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. So now, what do you enjoy more about your game? Do you get more satisfaction off of a dunk or off of blocking somebody?
Blocking somebody for sure.
Why?
Like, cause I mean, I'm 6'9", so I feel like dunking. I'm supposed to dunk. Like,
sure.
But okay. I do like dunking. Don't get me wrong. But blocking a shot is like different because it's like a defender think he got an easy layup. He might have been talking trash, and I can just grab it out there and just send it to the stands.
Now, explain to me if you have learned anything about the art of blocking shots? Have you learned anything from Coach Madsen about that?
Yeah, like instead of squatting down, swipe to the side so it won't be a foul. Because if I squat down, my hands is coming down. There's a possibility I can hit them. And if I, block to the side, there's no way I can hit them. It's a clean block.
There you go. Okay, so you were at Coastal Carolina for a little bit, and then you came over to Utah Valley. What was that experience like? Did somebody contact you from Utah Valley? How did you come to Utah Valley?
T.O. Todd Okerson.
Okay.
Yeah, he texted me. He was kind of like, hey, just give us a call. We're trying to talk to you and see, like, we like your game. And, like, I called him. We was on Zoom, and they showed me my film at Coastal. They was like, this how you will fit in with this team. And I liked it, and I just came.
So what do you feel like you've been able to benefit from Utah Valley so far?
My skill work, like my skills went up like crazy. Like at Coastal, like they develop us, but here they really like take time and develop you, try to talk you through it. You got to watch film. They try to teach you everything, like step by step.
I'm from Southern California. The climate is different here. So how have you adjusted from Arkansas to the Utah climate?
I still haven't. I ain't gonna lie. You can ask everybody. It can be like probably 70 degrees here. I'm still thinking it's cold. I have on a big bubble coat coming into practice. Yeah.
So how do you deal with it?
It's a little tough. I just
eat some
try
ribs?
to. Yeah, I wish I could. I wish, but nah. I just try to just stay warm and stay inside. Really.
What is it about this team that makes it so special? I feel like, compared to teams in the past at Utah Valley, it seems like this team has really bought in, and everybody is really tight-knit. Why do you feel that is?
Because like in the past, they used to tell us like they didn't really used to hang with each other. But here, like we'll go to the movies together. We'll do just about anything together. We always laughing and playing with each other. I think we just like I think it's bigger than basketball. Like we all cool with each other outside of basketball. So it make it like easy when we start playing together. Yeah. And we both competitive. Like from the starters to the bench, like everybody competitive. Every day you'll see somebody, pick up where one of the starters might left. You know what I mean?
This week, last week you had a big victory, traveled on the road, put up over 100 points against Chicago State. Now you're going to try and go down to Nacogdoches in Texas, and then Huntsville, Texas, to take on Stephen F. Austin and Sam Houston. What are you expecting from both of those teams?
I mean, they like two of the best teams in the conference, so I know they're going to try to come at our necks, and like we feel like we can win it all. So in order to win it all, we got to beat them. So I feel like we got a good chance of beating them.
And what do you feel like you personally need to do this week to continue to contribute?
Defend. Like I need to be able to, like, when the guards get beat, be able to help them and get back to my man, rebound, and, like, score when they need me to score.
All right. Well, Tim, we'll finish it off with a couple quick questions here for you. We already answered some of the food things, but your go-to pregame songs on your playlist, top two.
I listen to R&B, so
okay.
Any type of R&B. Like, I have a whole playlist of just R&B I listen to before the game.
So who's your guy?
I don't really have a guy, just like the whole genre. Just I mess with it.
The last two songs you listened to were what?
I don't know. It's like kind of mixed match. Like I have it on shuffle.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you more old school or are you more new school?
Old school for sure.
Like who?
Like John B. I like SWV, my bad. Who else? I listen to some Isley Brothers.
Oh, okay.
I listen to some Isley Brothers and also Bone Thug and Harmony. That's like my favorite old school rap. Yeah.
Okay. Favorite movie?
Glory Road.
Glory Road. Why?
Because it showed like this coach trusting like his team and beat the odds. Like it was like a mid-major and they won the whole NCAA.
It's a good movie.
Yeah.
And I think we already talked about your favorite food, favorite player. Your favorite aspect about Utah Valley?
The way they do things, like it's very planned out. Like it ain't like unorganized, it's organized.
All right, last question for you, Tim. The keys to success for Utah Valley this week is what?
Defending.
Defending. All right. You heard it from one of the best defenders on the team, the walking block party, Tim, the Emperor Caesar. Thanks for taking the time, brother.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. We'll actually hear from Tim Caesar's roommate, Colby Laveson, after this on ESPN 960. Welcome back to the UVU Coaches Show here on ESPN 960. Brandon Crow with you. We heard from Coach Mark Madsen. We also heard from Tim Caesar. Now it's our privilege to hear from Colby Laveson. And Colby, well, there's a lot of things on my mind I want to talk about, but this particular interview is being recorded after practice. I notice that you are the guy with the Apple Watch, so I have to ask you, man, just because I'm jealous, essentially, but how many calories do you normally burn into practice, number one, and how many miles do you typically run?
So today was pretty light just because we're coming off a road trip and we got a day off tomorrow. We don't play until Thursday. So today I burned like 600. But typically in a real practice, it's around 1,700, 1,800.
Man.
And then the miles, to be honest, I don't even look at the miles.
Okay.
When you record a basketball workout on the watch, it kind of just focuses on the calories and the heart rate. And so that's kind of – the reason I do it is kind of to monitor what I need to eat and see.
Oh, okay.
See what I got to do.
So what are your go-to meals then to help keep you fueled?
So we have a swipe here, which basically pays for one of our meals on campus every day.
Okay.
I like going to GoUVU with a bunch of the guys. We try
Oh.
to sneak in there before practice, and I normally get the caprese grilled cheese,
Ooh.
and then I add some turkey on there. So it's my go-to.
Nice. All right, so you grew up, is it Suwanee?
Suwanee, you hit it.
Suwanee, Georgia. So what was that like?
It was great. I mean, it's just a city 30 minutes north of Atlanta. It was sweet growing up there. I loved it. I went to pretty big high school, like 2,700 students, and I loved it. I lived there my whole life, same house from the time I was born to when I moved out here.
So you don't really have a Southern accent. Do you get gripe for that, or?
I do. So I did when I first moved out here, and then I served a 2-year mission for my church in Brazil where I didn't even speak English for a couple of years.
Okay.
So when I came back, I spoke really funny, and then and so I kind of lost my accent. So a lot of people say that, but I'll say some things, and people are like, "Oh, we don't say that out here," like words, but not so much the accent.
Got it. So have you ever come across in your playing days so far, since you were in Brazil, any Brazilians? Were you able to kind of talk to them and get them rattled a little bit?
So Wasatch Academy had one. He plays at Fresno now. And but there's a good amount of Brazilians in the community around here that I run into that I've become friends with, and we actually have one on the soccer team here.
Yes.
Who I know. So.
Okay, very good. So I have to ask then, is Tucano's the real deal?
Tucano's is above and beyond. It's some really good food. I ate some pretty good food in Brazil, but Tucano's sets the expectations very high.
Love it. So you knew Evan Cole, is that right?
Yeah, so we were really good friends in high school. We played on the same AAU team.
Got it.
That's kind of where our friendship grew, and we stayed in touch. When I was at BYU as a freshman, he came and visited me a couple times, really liked it out here. And so when he graduated from Georgia Tech after 3 years, I kind of talked him up, and I knew he'd love working with Coach Madsen, playing for him, and so we made it happen, and he lived with me out here. We had a great time.
Cool. Now, growing up in Georgia, obviously very athletic state. You know, football in the South is keen, but really Georgia, especially the Atlanta area, hotbed for basketball. So where did basketball come, or your love for basketball come for you?
Honestly, both my parents love basketball. My dad's a baseball guy through and through. He was heartbroken. I played baseball and basketball growing up, and then when I stopped playing baseball, it kind of broke his heart. But my mom taught me how to shoot. She's always loved the game, and my dad's a big Jazz fan, and so just growing up watching the Jazz, going to some Hawks games here and there.
Gotcha.
And I think you said it. I mean, just the hotbed and the atmosphere growing up, going to watch high school games and watching AAU tournaments, seeing these big names. I think that's where my love really grew.
What were some of the biggest names that were around when you were there?
So when I was a sophomore in high school, I dressed varsity. I'd never really played much, but we played Jaylen Brown in the Elite Eight.
Oh, okay.
And just watching him, I mean, he's unbelievable. And then Jared Cook, he's a tight end in the NFL.
Yeah,
He played basketball.
He's on my fantasy
growing
team.
up. Oh, really? And so he went to my high school, just watching guys like that play growing up. And it's kind of cool.
That's awesome. Very cool. Again, you're listening to the UVU Coaches Show. We're talking with Colby Laveson. Colby, so explain to us your decision to come to first off to Utah to BYU, and then from BYU to UVU.
So my mom went to BYU. My dad has family in Spanish Fork, so I'd been out here growing up going to BYU games, seeing that atmosphere, and I mean, they were by far the best school that recruited me out of high school. And so when they offered, I knew they would understand the mission, me coming home from a mission, all that process. And so that's kind of why I chose to go there. And then, I mean, Coach Rose did a great job recruiting me and his staff. And then when I got home from my mission, right before I came home, the staff changed, and I didn't really know them. They didn't really know me, and so it didn't really work out there. And I wanted to stay out here. My sister, she was going to BYU at the time. I wanted to stay near her, near family. I was comfortable out here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually didn't even change where I lived when I transferred from BYU to UVU. I just drove from Provo down here when I transferred. And then I had a cousin who was the head manager here and was really close with the staff. And he knew that they needed some shooting. He knew that the staff were incredible people, that I'd be treated well here, be in a great situation. And so he kind of talked me into coming here.
Love it. So now what is one of the things that you feel like you've learned from the staff?
I think that they hold themselves accountable to really getting to know each of us and making sure that we're doing well on and off the floor. I think they care about us as people, and they know, and they touched on it this morning. They touch on it all the time, that these lessons that we're learning are a lot bigger than basketball. Just being a professional in business and taking these skills that we're learning, being on time, treating people with respect, listening, and applying that to our lives after, being dads, being husbands, and just kind of moving forward, which is really cool.
That's awesome. Now, before you came to Utah Valley, I asked this to I'm not singling you. I asked this to every one of your teammates. But had you heard of Mark Madsen before?
Yes. So I was an avid NBA fan growing up.
Okay.
And so it's funny, when I was on my mission and Pope got the job at BYU, I knew there was probably a chance that it wouldn't work out going back there. And my dad had emailed me and said, "Hey, Mad Dog just got the job at UVU. It would be really cool to play for him." And I didn't give it much thought at the time, but then, I mean, probably 7-8 months after that, it was funny. I was here because I transferred mid-year, and it's been great learning from him. He's such a great guy, high character.
So far this season, a lot of the growth of this Utah Valley team, not just this team, but really the whole program overall the last couple of years has been really fun to watch, to be a part of. What do you feel like is some of the strongest characteristics of this team that helps all you guys? It seems like you guys have a really tight core.
We definitely do. I think we've done a good job right when everybody got here in the summer of kind of making time to get to know everybody, and we've just kind of gelled. You can't really force that. And I mean, I've played on a lot of different teams with lots of different groups of guys, and we've just got the right kind of character at every spot to where it gels. And I think the skill sets that each of us have, I think we do a good job of acknowledging strengths and weaknesses, and we kind of are able to build each other up and help each other work through some, like, if someone has lack of confidence or struggles in a bad game, we don't get down on them. We kind of just work on looking forward to the next game.
Got it. This week, upcoming games, you got 2 on the road, tough teams in Texas. What are you expecting from Abilene Christian and Sam Houston?
Or Stephen F. Austin, right?
Sorry.
You're good.
There's a lot of them, a lot of new ones.
A ton of them. We haven't seen much of them. We know they like to play fast. We've kind of talked a lot about the Texas teams as a whole, and we know they like to play fast, up-tempo. And the Stephen F. Austin team, we took a look at them this morning, and it seems like they're pretty physical, and so we're excited to see them this time, and we'll probably end up seeing one of them in the tournament.
All right, couple just to wrap things up here, Colby. Couple rapid fire questions for you. Your go-to song on your playlist before a game.
That's tough. I'm kind of different. I actually enjoy reading a lot.
Really?
And so I just kind of, whatever book I'm in, I kind of dive into it before the game and keep me calm.
Okay, so what's the book of choice lately?
I've been reading a book called Dollars and Cents. It's kind of like a psychology book about money. I don't have much money, but I'm trying to learn to hopefully get some more and make smart decisions with it. So.
All right. Favorite movie?
Favorite movie? Probably Dark Knight.
Okay. Dark Knight. Favorite food?
Favorite food? Honestly, I'm easy. Probably just chicken. I mean, I love me some chicken. So.
All right. Now, this is a sidetrack note, but anybody that's from the South have asked players, coaches, what is your choice? Southern barbecue or what is your food of choice from the South? I know Latrey Darthard said his is fried chicken, but you talk to Coach Jackson, he's all about barbecue.
I'm probably
ribs.
more of a fried chicken guy.
So where's you here in Utah? You turn your head in every corner. There's a chicken place. So what's the best chicken place out here?
Cane's is new, and so I think I kind of like that. I've been out here 4 or 5 years, and so Cane's is new out here, and so I've been going there occasionally. We go there as a team sometimes. So I think Cane's just probably because it's new.
Gotcha. All right, we'll finish you up here, Colby. Last question. Keys to success for this Utah Valley Wolverines team going forward is what?
I think realizing our potential, and sometimes we play down to the level of our competition. I think just making sure that we realize how good we are and maintaining kind of a level head as we move through conference.
All right. Well, that's Colby Laveson, everybody. Obrigado, my friend.
De nada.
We'll be right back and wrap things up here on the UVU Coaches Show right here on ESPN 960. Welcome back to the UVU Coaches Show here on ESPN 960. It's been a good show so far. We've heard from head coach Mark Madsen. We've heard from Tim Caesar and from Colby Laveson. And now it's our pleasure to hear from mental health therapist and sports performance, Doc Woods. Doc Woods is known. He's very popular throughout the UVU athletic community. A lot of the athletes love this guy. I've seen him around. Never officially got to meet him until recently, but seen him around. And every time you come around, Doc, I just see all the athletes, their faces light up. And so do you enjoy your relationships with these athletes like I see that they enjoy their relationship with you?
Oh, for sure, for sure. Everything's about relationship, especially dealing with something as stigmatized as mental health, you got to have that relationship in order to build that trust with the athlete. That way you can get them to the point of trusting you enough to take the information in and apply it to their, rather everyday life or athletic performance.
So we'll get into the specifics of your role at UVU in just a little bit, but a little bit of background about yourself. Now, Doc, you're from the Chicago area, is that right?
Correct. Yes.
So growing up in that area, did you play sports growing up? Were you attracted to sports?
Yeah, I played sports my whole life. Every sport, but basketball mostly.
Okay.
I had an older brother who's 2 years older than me, so he kind of started sports early, like 4 years old playing basketball. So I pretty much picked up a ball at 2 years old. Yeah, chasing behind him.
So do you get that athleticism from your mom or your dad?
To be honest, both. My mom was an athlete. She played basketball, volleyball, helped train me too. She was really good. My mom's 5'9", 5'8", so she played ball. My dad was a basketball player as well. He was known throughout Chicago, like street ball, like all that stuff. And ended up going to Illinois State and played a little ball there as well. Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, what was it about this particular field that attracted you to it?
For me personally, it's I kind of just fell into it, if that makes sense. I started UVU career off, like any other athlete, high hopes. I want to go to the NBA and all these things. And when I first got to UVU, Rodney Price actually kind of took me under his wing. And my coach was Dick Hunsaker. So, they just been kind of prepping me and everything. I had a good first season as a freshman, but that was my only healthy season. After that season, the summer going into my sophomore year, I kind of had like a full blowout of my knee, ACL, MCL. I didn't have fractures throughout of it. It was like like a Sean Livingston type of injury, you know, like
sure,
critical to the point where even, you know, my doctor was like, yeah, you probably won't be playing basketball. Let's just try to get you to that same smooth walk you always do. But he was like, far as basketball, let's try to like not even have our hopes up. And that was a death, you know, hearing that, you know, you're playing basketball your entire life. All you know, my whole identity is attached to being seen and known as a basketball player, quote unquote. But that was definitely like the start of mental health in sports and sports psych and all of that.
So did that really, did that affect, how did that affect you mentally?
Oh, deep depression. I was, well, it was more so a deep depression because a week prior I turned down a contract to go play overseas, you know. It was like $100,000. So I was like, oh, if I'm getting this, I can go, you know, I'm gonna make it to the league if they're already on me like this. You know, that's my mindset.
Sure.
And I just like started going between the legs, dunking, like doing all this stuff. So I'm like feeling like the best possible self. And then boom, ACL, you know, everything torn in my knee, like literally like 3 days after that, you know. So once that happened, that kind of put me into a state of confusion. You know, I don't know what's happening. I've never felt an injury like this before. I don't know what to expect. All I know is people usually tear their ACLs and things like that are just like, they never bounce back, you know? But for me, growing up in Chicago gave me a lot of resilience, a lot of tools I need to make sure, you know, I can keep pushing through. And that's kind of what I did, you know? They weren't expecting me to play ball again. And 9 months I was back in the gym dunking, you know, and got my hopes up. And then I had to get another surgery because it wouldn't bend. And then 6 months later, MCL on my other knee, you know. So I kind of had, from that point, I had 7 like total surgeries, you know, throughout my just college career.
Jeez. And
every time I bounced back, you know, I've gained something mentally, like resilience and all these things, grit from the past surgery. And every time I was just confident that, hey, I can keep coming back, you know? And then NCAA, I guess this is technically my intro into sports psych. NCAA forced me to see a sports psychologist.
Really?
I appealed for my last semester, and the NCAA was like, the only way they would grant it is if I see a sports psychologist. They have to write off on it, because they was like, hey, this kid has so many injuries, like no way he's mentally sound to be playing. Which from the outside looking in, it makes sense. You know, it's like, hey, are you all using this kid? Like, why are you, this kid is still trying to play? He has all these injuries and surgeries. So I saw a sports psychologist, and well, he wasn't even a sports psych. He was just a psychologist who like specialized in sports. And he kind of like assessed me. We talked about everything. And he was the one who introduced me and was like, look, for you to be able to come back even from the first one and still play at a high level and stay positive, still good, you know, good grades and not, you know, go sour in life. He was like, you have a lot of tools in which if you're able to replicate yourself and other kids and make them better and mentally strong, he's like, you'll have a long career. So I guess technically that was like my introduction into like sports psych. Yeah.
Wow. So much there. So before that injury and before you said that you went into that dark place, had you ever mentally gone into a place like that before, or was that the first time?
It might sound weird. I guess I've existed in that place most of my life without knowing it, you know, because I mean, Chicago was about survival, but I mean, I was born technically in Bloomington, Illinois. You know, most of my life was in Chicago, but I moved a lot in my life. I was born in Bloomington. I lived in like Vegas. I lived in Inglewood, LA. And then most of my life was Inglewood, Chicago, you know, and that's like 5th grade, 6th grade, high school. So I've always existed in a place where, you know, I really didn't know myself. Expectations of me were low because I was just an athlete. But I was brilliant at the same time. I guess my social awareness and things like that, being able to survival skills and all that was at a high level. But I was always like, who am I? What am I doing? You know, I always felt out of place. And that's why my identity was so attached to basketball, and why when I tore that ACL the first time, it really destroyed me, you know, and then everything sad within me, grief from friends or family dying around me, just violence, all kind of just came to the surface, if that makes sense.
Oh, totally. That's very interesting that you say that. I mean, I just recovered from the second time of having COVID this year, and with COVID, the last couple years have been crazy for everyone. But what one of the side effects for me has been a lot of anxiety and some depression. And looking back on my life, it's interesting that you said that you kind of felt like it was there, but you just didn't really know. And I look back, and there are certain moments in my life where I kind of felt these things, but I just didn't know what it was. And so I just continued to push through it. And then now recently I've been trying to do more research about it, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then, I just think it's really amazing how many athletes now are really taking a stand and coming out in the highest places. You have Olympians, you have basketball players, NFL players coming out and saying, hey, look, this is real, and we have to deal with this stuff. And why do you think now is the time that all these things are starting to come to fruition, and why is it considered quote unquote okay in our culture now to talk about this now?
From my personal opinion, like every generation is different,
Sure.
And certain generations, every new generation is not going to allow something the old generation kind of tolerated, if that makes sense. So I always look at like myself being, the 89 baby, quote unquote. I'm like the last of the 80s, but also the new generation.
Right.
So I'm kind of on both ends where, I had a coach who would call you, like cuss you out, put you down and all these things to force resilience, to force, wanting to go against the grain. As I've introduced to coaches who were just more so like, they'll talk nice to you and try to, motivate you. But to be honest, I think it's got normalized. It was spoken about so much to the point where everyone's awareness of self and emotional state started to increase, So now it's like, if I'm sad or down or I feel bad about, coach isn't playing me, instead of just sitting there like, oh, you know what, I just need to toughen up. I just need to be a man or something like that. It's like, no, I need to be aware that, hey, I am actually sad. I am disappointed. I am, putting actual names to these emotions is something that now has been promoted to a level where everyone's aware and know how to do it. It's one thing being aware of your emotional state, but it's another thing actually, acknowledging it and then being accountable for it, So I think the accountability part of, now's world of sports and how big mental health is to a level where it can't be ignored, There's no more toughen up. There's no more, oh, you'll get over it. There's no more, just, you're not anxious. You're just over, there's no more downplaying this anymore. It's to a point where we can't ignore it and people have to actually pay attention.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm 88. That's when I was born. So I've had those coaches on both sides as well. So I totally feel you. But I just, it is important. And what was considered quote unquote tough in the past. Now, I mean, talking about this and being open about this and helping others with your own personal story, that in my opinion is true toughness, in acknowledging that, hey, I can't do this anymore by myself. And so I need some help. And I feel like the more that we have these conversations openly, the more that we can help people out there. And I think it's awesome. Now, so going back to the UVU aspect, how do you, like, how does that work? Do you just, you have an open door policy or do you have set appointments for the athletes? How does that work?
It's how I do it is very unorthodox, to be honest. I'm very non-traditional as a therapist, as a sports psych. I try to make it conversational, make it lax, make it easygoing. I'm a one-man department, so it's me and 350 student athletes. And I also took on clubs and, intramural teams as well. So you're talking about 700 to 800 technically student athletes that all have access to me. So I run it like a private practice. You know, if you want to get in touch with me, you got to text my number, what sport, name, when can I come in? And then we do it like that. Sometimes it's virtual like this. Other times it's in the office. But because I have that freedom to run it like that, I actually can access, you know, more kids than I regularly would, if that makes sense, because I travel with teams, you know, I go to practices. But like I said in the beginning, it's all about the relationship, you know. So if they see me at practice all the time and I'm talking to them, you know, I'm shooting around with them, or I'm in the wrestling room, you know, going over grip, or just like, you know, talking about, hey, did y'all watch so-and-so last night? But building those relationships in those non-traditional parts of the day, which is practice, you know, even in the hallway, I might just be walking, see someone on the track team. Hey, how y'all doing? How was your day? Hey, I saw what you did yesterday. Good job. And usually in that moment of just like walking by, or in practice, or on the bus heading to the airport, you know, those are intimate moments where a kid feels comfortable enough and have the opportunity to approach me, you know, and just say, hey, I know you do these X, Y, and things. I feel like I can do a little better in this category. Or, you know what, I'm super nervous before every game, and I've kind of always been like this. Do you have any tips for me? You know, so sometimes it's like scheduled meetings, but most of the time it's just them catching me somewhere, and then that will be a session right there. Then I just go back and backlog the notes and things like that. But yeah, that's how I run it, and that's been very effective. And I get a lot of assistance from our crisis team. So if I'm in, you know, Chicago or LA somewhere, and a kid on the soccer team or wherever has a crisis, our crisis team is very well informed. You know, I work close with them, so they know to get the kid in. But ultimately that kid is usually like, all right, they'll just call me, right? Or get me on the virtual and we'll have a session.
That's awesome. Now, is this part of the holistic training LLC.com? Is that what this is?
That's separate. So that's my private practice, actually.
Okay.
And through that private practice, I'm actually linked to a lot of different agencies out here, because, you know, I specialize in substance abuse as well. So I got like 3 substance abuse agencies I work with, where, you know, I take their clients or I'll train their staff, you know. I work with a couple of other private practices and some like experiential adventure style private practices where, you know, horseback riding, they go up the mountain, maybe ski or snowboard, and any particular outdoor adventure way of therapy. So I work with various different agencies, but then also my private clients range from an Olympian to like, you know, a 6-year-old chess master, you know, who's just out here killing it, you know. I love diversity, if that makes sense. It keeps me challenged, and it keeps me driven, right? I can't get comfortable, and that's one of my biggest fears, is getting comfortable. So it keeps me always constantly learning and constantly progressing.
That's amazing. All right, Doc, we know you're busy. We'll let you go with this. The last question here, just for any listeners out there, what are just a couple simple tips if they are feeling a little anxious, or if they're feeling a little down? Just a couple different simple tips, maybe, to kind of help them calm down that moment.
Okay, some good simple tips, strategies, coping, whatever you want to call it. Diet and sleep. Eat a well-balanced meal, you know, and think of it as energy. What type of energy are you putting into you? You know, from certain athletes, I've changed diets, and that's changed performance mentally and physically, you know. So I would say keep a well-rounded diet. Make sure your sleep hygiene is definitely consistent, because eating and sleep, you know, those we live on those things, you know. Limit caffeine, alcohol, any substances and things like that. Limit, if not, you know, kind of eliminate them. And exercise. We got to move that body, you know. If you can keep some sort of a regimen weekly, that kind of helps. But then also to go into more like quick things, I'll always say deep breathing. Focus on breath in that moment. If you're really anxious and your mind is kind of like spinning, focus on the breath. You know, I always say take deep breaths that are 4 seconds and then hold that for 4 seconds before you release it for 4 seconds, you know, because it's hard to keep breathing fast if you're taking long, deep breaths, which, you know, I tell my athletes, you can control your heartbeat and slow that down and take control. You can control your mind. Your mind won't race with your heartbeat, you know. That's one. And then sensories, you know, if you're really overthinking and you're really scared in the moment, you know, think about what are you tasting? What are you hearing? What are you seeing? What can I feel around me? You know, kind of limit and bring you back to the here and now and keep you grounded. That way the mind doesn't run as well. Like those are a quick, you know, few things, but I mean, I'm eclectic in style. So depending on the person, that'll depend on what type of technique I introduce to them. And usually they're all different because like I said, I tailor everything to the person.
Well, that's amazing. I appreciate the conversation, Doc. Appreciate the time, and I appreciate what you do for the athletes and for others out there. And again, thank you so much.
Appreciate it, Brian. Have a good one.
Thank you, sir. All right, that was Doc Woods with Utah Valley University. Great conversation, and we've had a great show today. We'll take a week break. Utah Valley this week is at Stephen F. Austin, then at Sam Houston. You can listen to both of those games right here on Thursday at 5:30, and then Saturday at 1 o'clock here on ESPN 960. All right, we'll see and talk with you next week, next Monday here on the UVU Coaches Show. Have a good week, everybody. Take care.